Hi, welcome to installment number 5 of the series in which I build this hacker finder. I apologize in advance. There's landscaping going on outside of my house here, so you might be hearing combines and whatever they're using out there. It's actually not combines. That'd be pretty intense for this neighborhood. But anyway, it has been actually a little while since I last touched this application. So I'm kind of trying to get my bearings again, and I see these informational messages here. Uh, that usually bothers me. I've kind of OCD about trying to get rid of things like this. Could not find schema information. However, this all seems to be about XML purism and only applicable when I have that file open, so I'm actually not really going to do much of anything with it. Now, what I remember from last time was, let's see, I wanted to do some refactoring, and in fact, let me bring up my Trello board. Trello. Zoom back in here a little bit. So the things I don't like. Oh, right, I left ncrunch off. Non-happy path tests around get profiles for location. Let's see what that means. Oh, I kind of recall what that means. So this could be static. There's a lot not to like about this method, which I'll clean up here shortly, but in looking at my, let's see what happens if we turn on ncrunch. Now this is going to go out over the wire and start sending a bunch of requests at GitHub. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, I don't remember how ncrunch caches the results exactly. I feel like it's just running at once. And as long as I don't change anything in the code, it's not continuously running it. It's only a continuous tester when I'm making changes. So everything's green for now, and I'm just going to go with that until I get some nastygram from GitHub about throttling or something. That might not always be the best strategy, but it's the one I'm going to go with, and let it never be said that I don't have fun. So we've got coverage here in these unit tests. Okay, so these are all passing, and you can see here from the dot, these are long-running tests, 937 milliseconds. So these tests are taking about a second to run. That's going to become a problem as time goes on. So I'm going to need to introduce some kind of shim here in these unit tests, at least. Figure something out where I'm separating the tests into long-running acceptance or integration tests, and then maybe something else where I'm running things that are faster with some kind of shim or mock in there. So I've got that light bulb. It's telling me that I can... Oh, I don't need to... Yeah, by all means. That's handy. If you're not a .NET developer or not familiar with that, it can infer the generic type from the fact that this profiles is an IEnumerable of profiles. So in the setter, I don't have to be specific about that. I do in the getter, though. Anyway, moving on. Let's do a refactoring here. These tests look okay, but I can eliminate a line of code, and whenever I can, I tend to do that. So I'm going to say private profile searcher. So I'm going to declare this target here as a class level field, and then I have this CodeRush shortcut set up in which I say now that's interesting. I'm not clear on why this is going red. That's unexpected, and I wonder if it's because I'm sort of walking the tightrope here with the continuous testing tool going out to... Yeah, see, that's interesting. It passed in the test runner, but it's failing in ncrunch. Now I'll learn a bit from doing this, where if I just back everything out, does it go green again? It sure does. That's interesting. Now, I would definitely not think that just declaring a property in the class would make this go red. And yet... So that is definitely a smell that we need. We need to think about maybe less flaky test setup. I don't know what's causing that exactly, but that is sure bizarre. I mean, this is, you can see that it's grayed out here, so there's probably even like optimize out. What if I do this? It goes back to green. Boy, is that weird. So it doesn't mind that. Boy. Ah, the mysteries of life. So if I declare it as a class field, it's okay with that. What if I make it a property? Doesn't even seem to understand that. Oh, it's a non-executed line here. Target. Doesn't care about that. What on earth? I think I've broken Visual Studio. Nope, no, now it's unhappy. What if I change it back to lowercase? Sadly, a lot of my programming life is just this sort of experimentation. Well, let me see what happens if I complete the refactoring. Sequence contains no elements. So it's saying it's not getting anything back. And yet, this is the code rush test runner. Let's see what happens there. Okay, so it passes when I run it there, but ncrunch is getting tripped up on something here. Now, going into this, I sort of suspected that ncrunch might be a difficult thing to get going with this heavily integrated outside-in approach I've taken so far. This new profile searcher. Gosh, this proved to be a perilous refactoring. What I will say is, that's interesting. It's not quite like, I would be more hesitant if not for the fact that I actually am green here. It's just something with the ncrunch tool. Oh, now I'm not. That's very interesting. Boy. Back everything out of here. Maybe try a different approach. And it all goes green again. That is pretty wild. So profile searcher. I'm wondering if it has something to do with this deferred execution here. So first profile, this is the moment where it'll execute. And here is the moment where it will execute. So let me do this. Sort of get rid of the deferred execution problem here. This is not ideal, but it's a refactoring that should be okay. So I'm expecting everything to stay green here, and yet it does not. Oh. All right, now I'm back to green. So let me go in here and private profile searcher target. Now, let me see if it's ncrunch that's just getting crossed up. No. Sequence contains no elements. Boy, is that weird. So it's like multiple instantiations of this thing are a problem. If I just like delete this line. Yeah, that was flaky. It just went from red to green, or green to red when I just like deleted a blank line. So I think maybe the top, yeah, now it's still red, which doesn't really make sense. I think basically at this point, what I'm learning is that I can't really rely on this test runner here at the moment, not the way it is. So I'm going to pivot here, and I think what I'm going to do is build out a fake here. And let's see. This is always interesting. So I'm passing in this HTTP client, and that's the collaborator that I'm interacting with. And so without getting too heavy, I have to pay for heavyweight mocking tools, and I don't really want to do that. So I want to see what's mockable in here. And sadly, the answer appears to be just about nothing. So what am I doing? I am doing a bunch of stuff with this client, and then get the result. And I don't care about this request headers crap anyway. I don't care about the client. What I really care about is the string that I'm passing in and the location, and then I care about what comes back. So I'm going to look at defining. First off, let me disable ncrunch for the moment, because that's just a distraction. I hate the fact that that I can't use it, but I will go back to what I consider the old way of doing things, which is to actually run. Where? Say happening in tests. Ah, there we go. Run tests. Okay, so everything's green. And I don't want to touch Profile Searcher anymore until, let me write a failing test here. I want to get this problem squared away, because what I'll do is I'll keep it the way it is for the acceptance tests and run those by hand, but I want my unit tests here guarding what I'm doing. So I'm going to write I'm going to write code where I inject a dependency and mock that dependency. And I'm just kind of looking at it. It's going to be this mess of stuff. So I can sort of conceive of what I want to give to this thing I'm going to build and what I want to get back. And what I'm going to give it is probably the GitHub URL string. And then what I want to get back is the JSON content. And that's something I can abstract out and then still have a meaningful test about what's coming back. So the first thing I'm going to do is go find a mocking tool. And the one I've been using most recently, filter all, is Just Mock by Telerik. There's a free version of that. No, just mock, not a special one. Do it. Okay. There's a lot of stuff here. This is a fun, 15 or 20 minutes, right? I've done kind of nothing. Isn't that the way of it sometimes? So you've just watched me confuse myself. All right, what I want to do is I want to say, so I'm going to create a thing that I'm going to pass in here. I'm going to tell that thing, here's a URL, and go and get me a string back. So get profiles for location should return, let's see. And the string that's coming back is going to contain a profile. So what I'm doing right now is just saying, if it contains the string Eric Dietrich, build a new profile. So I'm going to say return a profile. And I'll probably come up with a better name for this later, but let's see. What would I call this thing? What's it doing? Instantiating an HTTP client, which is an abstraction that I don't really care about. It's going to add a request header to it. It's going to then call for an asynchronous. So I guess I'll call it GitHub querier. That's a weird word. GitHub Inquisitor. That's a cool name. It's not that great, but I'll go with it for now. Return a profile. With first name Eric. When GitHub Inquisitor okay, and let's see if I can't get this passing here before it's time to sign off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say target equals new profile searcher and inquisitor mock of GitHub Inquisitor. I'm sorry, I'm cracking myself up. So I'm going to declare a mock of this thing, declare the interface. It's not going to work there. We're going to have to put it into the production code. Let's paste it, rename the file to match the type, get rid of that stuff. Okay. Then I'm going to build and see what the problem is. And the lack of an equal sign, so Oh, really? I think I might be confusing syntax from an older tool. It's weird, I haven't used this in a long time. Coming up on 20 minutes here, so I'm going to inject the Inquisitor. I'm going to try and hurry up and see if I can't get this passing and then figure out other details later. So now we've got a constructor here. That's fine. I don't have ncrunch, which is driving me nuts, so we're going to expect this to... oh, the build fails. Oh, yeah, because these guys... So... And yes. Very much off my game without my continuous testing tools. So everything fails because there's a not implemented exception in there, which we don't want. That is not helpful. Now everything should pass. Okay, because we're not doing anything particularly controversial here. So I'm going to say that the Inquisitor there's this extension method library here where I want to say that lets me do this link semantics mocking .arrange. What am I going to call this? Get profiles for location is this method. I'll just call it execute URL query. I'm going to say for any string, and I'm going to say returns. Eric Dietrich is the result string. Okay, that doesn't exist, so let's declare. Then we're going to call it query string. And I'm in a hurry, but I'm still not going to copy and paste this. What I'm going to do instead, I think, is I'm going to consolidate. I'm going to get rid of this test and move this stuff here, because this test is not going to be relevant anymore when I'm done. And let's see. So we're going to get the first. That's going to fail, right? What don't you like? Oh, because it's a void method. So the setup overhead was okay. Now, this thing is passing. I'll tell you what, I am going to leave off for here because this episode is already too long, and I'll revisit it in the next episode, where I'll figure out how to do something to this test that'll get it to only pass in this situation on account of the mock. So because this is really mid-flight, I'm not going to actually check this code in, so or I'm not going to commit it or sync it. So look for it to be just a continuation right from here next time.